Hi everyone, welcome back to my weekly meal planning podcast. This is an episode that I do every Wednesday where I share with you what my family's meal plan is for the upcoming week. This is just to maybe help you get your meal plan together. Maybe you'll hear some recipes that you might want to try, or maybe just give you some motivation to get something down on paper so that you have a plan for the upcoming week so you're not constantly trying to figure out what's for dinner. So this week's meal plan starts on Saturday, December 17th. And before I get into it, I just want to mention before I forget, you can find links to any of these recipes that I reference in this meal plan on my website at lolasfrugallife.com. There's a weekly blog post for the meal plan every week that comes out on the same day that the meal plan episode comes out. So for Saturday, we're going to be doing penne with chicken and asparagus, which is from allrecipes.com. This is just a real simple pasta dish. It's basically pasta with asparagus, chicken broth, and chicken breasts cut up into small little bite-sized pieces. It's like a one pot dish type thing. Although actually I think you might have to I forget if you make the pasta separately in this one. Yeah, this one you do make the pasta separately, so it's not technically a one pot dish, but it's a pretty simple recipe to make. And then for a side dish, I'm going to try cheesy bacon butternut squash. That's from delish.com. This is like a roasted butternut squash dish with bacon in it. That sounded really good. I've never made it before, but I thought it sounded like something fun to try. So we're gonna make that to go with the chicken and penne dish and with asparagus. For Sunday, I'm gonna do easy ravioli bake from bettycrocker.com. This is really, really easy. It's kind of like lasagna, but with ravioli. So you basically just layer raviolis and sauce and then cheese, and then you just bake it in the oven. So that's super, super easy. And then we're going to serve that with Chef John's Italian meatballs, which is from allrecipes.com. And that's another, that's a really simple meatball recipe, and that bakes in the oven. So those meatballs actually bake pretty quickly. So what I did the last time is I got the ravioli bake in the oven, and then I prepared the meatballs while that was baking. And then once I took the ravioli stuff out of the oven, then I just popped the meatballs in, and they're done in like 20 minutes, and then we just serve them together. So that is for Sunday. For Monday, we do hamburgers every other Monday. So this happens to be our hamburger week this week. For hamburgers, I don't have a recipe to share. I just make hamburger patties with ground beef, and then I'm going to do oven fresh seasoned potato wedges on the side, which is from allrecipes.com. That's just a really easy potato recipe. You just cut them into wedges, toss them in a bag with some olive oil and Parmesan cheese and some seasonings, and then you just bake them in the oven. And then we'll do a can of pork and beans on the side with that. For Tuesday, we always do some type of Mexican theme meal. This week we're doing Southwest Skillet by Campbell's Kitchen, which is also from allrecipes.com. And we serve this with tortilla chips for like a really quick, easy Tuesday meal. For Wednesday, I'm doing bacon wrapped barbecue shrimp, which is also from allrecipes.com. Like I mentioned, every time I make this recipe, I just cut up the bacon and layer it on top of the shrimp. I don't actually wrap the shrimp because it just makes it really super quick and easy to prepare. And then as a side dish, we're going to be doing easy lo mein, which is from damndelicious.net. This is just a really quick lo mein, like vegetable lo mein dish. It has like peas and spinach and peppers and mushrooms and everything. It's like a nice vegetable lo mein side dish. So that's going to go with the bacon wrapped barbecue shrimp. For Thursday, I always do breakfast for dinner or soup and grilled cheese for dinner because I go grocery shopping this night, and I try to keep the meal prep a little bit on the easier side. So this week we're going to be doing instant pot chicken and rice soup, which is from themovementmenu.com. This is a really simple recipe. I did note that when I made it in the Instant Pot, I cut the rice in half because when I used the amount of rice that was in the recipe, it just came out too much rice. Like it was almost more like a stew consistency rather than a soup. So if you have that same problem, maybe you might want to try cutting the rice in half if you do try that recipe. So then our last meal on this week's meal plan is on Friday, December 23rd. So for Friday, I'm going to be doing creamy herbed pork chops from allrecipes.com. Like I always mention when I do make this recipe, I've never made the gravy that you're supposed to make to go over them. I just use this recipe as a placeholder to make the pork chops using the first step of it, which is basically heating up butter in a skillet and cooking the pork chops after seasoning them with Montreal steak seasoning. And I think they come out so good just plain like that. Not plain, but just the butter, the Montreal steak seasoning, and just cooking them up that way in the frying pan, that I don't even go any further. I just think they taste really good like that. So we're having that. And then for sides, I'm going to be making Sarah's rice pilaf, which is from allrecipes.com. I think the first time I made this recipe was a few weeks back. I'm pretty sure I've only made it once so far. And I thought it came out really good. I had never made rice pilaf before, so I thought this was a really great recipe. And it tasted really good. It was like a really good side dish. It was almost like kind of like restaurant style. I felt like it was kind of fancy. Like I had never really made rice pilaf before, so that was really good. And I think that'll go good with the pork chops. And then we're just gonna do a bag of frozen vegetables, like the steam fresh kind you can just put in the microwave. And that's it. So that's it for this week's meal plan. I hope this was helpful to you. I just think meal planning is really important to help us have a little bit less stress during the week in knowing what we're having for dinner, and it saves money by buying just what you need for your recipes rather than kind of buying random things and not really knowing what you're going to do with them. So I hope this was helpful to you, and thank you so much for listening, and I will see you back here again next week. So thank you for checking in for this podcast episode, and don't forget, you can always email me with any questions or suggestions at lolasfrugallife@gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at lolasfrugallife, and you can find a blog post for most of my episodes and definitely all of my meal plan episodes at lolasfrugallife.com. You can also join our private listeners group at facebook.com/groups/lolasfrugallife. And if you enjoy the show, please make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen from. And I would love it if you would screenshot the show and tag me on Instagram so I could see you're listening. Also, if you can please take a couple of seconds to rate and review the podcast. Those ratings and reviews are what help the show come up better in search results so that other people can find this podcast. So that will really help me in growing my audience. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have an awesome day.